The old Honda CB series from the 70s has been among the most iconic motorcycles for a cafe racer project. It is easy to know why when we see astonishing machines like these. But there is a problem. They are becoming rarer and too valuable. And this is where today's project may change things. It is obviously not based on the CB series from the 70s. But if you prefer a muscular CB750, fully loaded with steroids, I promise this Honda will not disappoint. Welcome to RacerTV. If Arnold Schwarzenegger needed a CB750 cafe racer, I'm sure this one would be perfect for him. Just like muscle cars, everything on this project looks strong and vigorous. And this is something you can't get from the iconic CB series from the 70s. This stunning machine is the work of Krzysztof Rogalinski, also known as Khris, the man behind KhrisBiker Customs in Poland. But I cannot talk about this project without explaining how everything started. Here is Radek. He helped Khris on his first project. And here it is. The Spider project. This is how KrisBiker Customs team discovered the perfect cafe racer stance for the CB750. It was built in 2020, during the pandemic. I have to confess that 2 years ago, Khris tried to submit this project to be shown on this channel. Although I really like the overall stance of this great Honda, there were a few choices that didn't fit my personal taste. Especially the headlight and the fuel tank's color. But after a while, I discovered the Spider project was being a huge success on the internet. And that happened again after Khris built this new blue version. But when I saw his latest project, I simply could not find arguments not to like it. As you see, this silver Honda gained a more retro and classic flavor, which is precisely what I think was lacking on his previous projects. With the exception of the seat, fuel tank, and headlight, most of the modifications on the three Hondas are very similar. So, when the KrisBiker Customs team began the Spider project, they were absolutely certain of one thing only. This section had to be completely flat and horizontal. This might even be achievable without cutting the subframe's middle section. As you see on this other project, the subframe was only modified on the rear section, and the seat still looks relatively horizontal. This bended section can be disguised with a taller black seat. But Khris wanted perfection on this point, and to use a brown seat with a very thin profile. This section had to be replaced. This may sound like an insignificant detail, but the truth is, it makes the difference when we see the final result, because it delivers a very clean and simple atmosphere. This classic rounded headlight may be considered as the usual and easy choice. But to be honest, it suits the project's aesthetics perfectly. Especially because of the retro-style character. The fuel tank came from a 1976 CB550. And this old steel appearance is a very nice touch. It may look real in some images, but in fact, this is an effect created by the paint job, and finished with a matte clear coat. I am sure some will say, this brown leather belt is probably too much. Personally, I think it is a good solution, because without it, the fuel tank would look too simple. The front forks came from a Suzuki GSX-R 600. And the rear shocks are Ohlins. All these items may sound like simple and random choices. The truth is, everything was carefully chosen to ensure the bike was going to end up completely horizontal. According to Khris, this was even harder during the assembly process, because they didn't have the final wheels to confirm all the alignments. Speaking about wheels, it is not every day we can see spoked wheels on a Honda 750 from the 90s. And the high-profile tires, with the white lettering, create sort of a vintage racing vibe, which suits the project's identity quite nicely. I have to admit, these spoked wheels sure make the CB750 very nice. It is not by chance that Khris adopted them in the 3 projects. These wheels were created by Nazar, owner of Gazzz Garage, located in Ukraine. He designed a perforated disc system, which allows the adaptation of the spoked wheels on the CB750. Unfortunately, Nazar was called to defend his country, which means that for now, Khris cannot make any other similar projects. Meanwhile, this thrilling machine will rock the streets of New York, where his new owner will definitely turn a lot of heads. Spencer is the name of the new owner. No, these are his parents' names. He wanted this bike to be a homage to them, which explains this lettering on the back, which in Spanish means, my son. So, what more can I say about this great project? Considering it is based on the CB750 from the 90s, I think Khris and his team did an incredible job. And how can we be sure of that? Well, by comparing it with this one. Yes, the frames and wheels proportions are completely different. And after knowing this, we can finally say, this CB750 CafeRacer is simply magnificent. Because it looks powerful, strong, vigorous, and still has some vintage flavor from the 70s. Thank you for watching RacerTV. And as always, I hope to see you on the next video.